Alright, so I went ahead and redone my terminals on the actual wire portion of the wall power adapter, and here's the other part that we made in the previous part of this video. Something I realized as I was making this, if you're gonna cover up your wires completely, you may have a hard time seeing which one was ground and which one was positive. So for mine, I've actually marked my positive terminal so I know how to plug it in. So let's go ahead and figure out how to do this. Here's the step-up chip. It's in the parts list. When you get it, your terminal blocks will not be soldered on, so you'll have to solder those on. It's really easy, just 5 quick solder points. It'll also come with some small, like, single pin headers that can also be placed in here, and that's if you want to mount the chip and come out of the bottom. But for you, you're going to want the terminals. You also need your multimeter as well for this portion again. So you also are going to want to make a couple of jacks. So these are just for testing. Essentially what I've done is I've just put those terminal ends on just 2 regular wires. I've used the opposite junction end of the of what's attached to my wall power supply. These are these are clip ends, and this is the shovel end. So you want to have these so that you can connect that and have a nice easy way to go into this box, and I'll show you what I'm talking about here in just a minute. So if you look at your chip, on the back you can actually see it says DC 85 volts to 235 volts, and on this side it says DC 12 volts to 24 volts. So this is your input and that is your output. Another easy way to see that is, you've got 3 blocks on your 3 terminal spots on your input and only 2 on your output. And then if you take a look right here, wobbling the camera around, you see this little white circle with a negative screw terminal point on it. We're going to use that to adjust the power, or the setting, or we're going to use that to adjust the regulation on the volts. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take each of these. Well, before you do any of that, obviously, like we said, make sure that your terminals work. Make sure you're still getting that output you want. So I'm just going to do another quick test here. And I'm getting, oh, that's not making any sense. What am I doing? 12.20 volts like I was before. Alright. Now what you're going to do, and this is why we made these 2 little scrap wires. You're going to plug them on in. Just like this. And now remember, you are working. By the way, also I've got my the actual, as you can tell because I actually just measured the voltage, I've got this thing plugged in. So you really want to be careful here because this is the spot where you can really start getting shocked. So I'm going to take my positive, and on here it says G and D for ground. Then there's SHDA and VIN, which is VN. So you take your positive, you're going to put it right into your VN spot here. Just press on the back of the terminal connection. You slide it in like that, and you let go and give it a little pull, make sure it's snug. Alright, and then you put your other wire for your black or your ground into the ground terminal. Pretty simple stuff. Give it a little pull, make sure it's nice and tight. So, big safety warning here. If you touch those 2 at the same time, you are going to get a lot of volts, and it is going to hurt. If you are handling this once it's plugged in, I suggest you either handle it by the very outside of the chip, or just be careful with the way you hold it. If you touch anything over here, you might just touch behind a capacitor or something. You're going to get shocked and it's going to hurt. What you're going to do next is this is where your output's going to be. So you're going to take your 2, I'll put this right here so that you guys can see it, and hold that down at the same time. You're going to measure your volts coming out of this side. So you've got, here once again you've got HU, or it might be HV for high voltage, and G and D for ground. So this is your positive and this is your negative. So what you're going to do is you're just going to prod your 2 terminals here. Once again, if you touch both of your terminal points there, you will get it. So be careful. And you can see here I'm at 123 volts. And I'm actually having a brain freeze. I think 175 volts is where I want to be. So once you probe, just take them out. Get yourself a nice small screwdriver that's going to fit in there nicely. That one's a little bit big. See if this one's smaller here. Yeah, that one's about perfect. Alright. Get yourself a small screwdriver, and remember we were talking about this this block here, and it's probably hard to see in the video, but if you turn this clockwise, you'll increase your volts. If you turn it counterclockwise, you'll decrease. So what you got to do is you got to take your probes, and probe it on in there. You got a reading 123.7. I need to get that to about 175. So you're going to watch your volts as you do this. You take the screwdriver, you stick it in there, and it doesn't take much. You're just going to real slowly start turning it. And if you can, let's see if I can get you a better angle at this. If you're watching I'm at 129.6 now. If you watch as I turn this block, you're going to see my volts go up. So I'm 135, I'm going to keep going up. 160, 173. I'm at 180 now, so I need to back it off just a little bit. And I'm going to try and get as close to 179.9. Like I said, and depending on your tubes that you have, if you're not using the 14 ends, you'll actually have different voltage ranges, and they're called the strike point or the match point of the tube. So you got to go online, you got to see what the arc or the strike point for your tubes are, and you got to set it to just a little bit over that. So my tube's strike point is 175 volts. I'm running 100 and 180 actually right now, so I might actually back this off just a little bit more. Like I said, it doesn't take but just barely a touch. 177.2. So just a few more volts just to make sure that I'm well above strike point. If you go too far over, you can damage your tubes very badly. You'll pretty much blow them out. So you want to make sure that you're just over voltage points. And like I said, be really careful with this thing. I mean, it can light you up. And it's happened to me a few times. So be careful with that. Once you have this set, you don't ever have to touch it again, so that's the good thing. So now that you have this set, your power supply is completely ready and set up, and you can actually start testing all your tubes and doing all that good stuff with this chip. And I'm going to get to that in another video, but that is how you set up your step-up chip, and you should be set and ready for all your power needs throughout this project.